don't give up. It's really hard in the beginning when you're trying to get into recovery and you're getting sober, and it's always like really, for me, it was really, really challenging in the beginning. But the thing that I was gifted with was that I was surrounded by a lot of people that had been sober for a long time, and my advice would be to find the people that are doing well and stick with them. And that's what really helped me in the beginning.
In a world of shadows, River stood alone, with dreams in his heart, but a mind overthrown. Watched his parents drown in a bottle's embrace, swore to break the cycle to find his own place. But a whisper of chaos lured him away. In the grip of the night, he lost his way. River breaks, rise from the ashes, with strength in your heart, let go of the flashes. From chaos to healing, your spirit ignites, a counselor's path leading into the light. Teenage years crumbled under golden chains, a fleeting escape, but it brought only pains. Through the haze of the drink, he started to drown, like spinning out, wearing a lost crown. But inside a meeting, a spark caught his eye. In Augusta's embrace, he learned how to fly. River banks, rise from the ashes, with strength in your heart, let go of the flashes. From chaos to healing, your spirit ignites, a counselor's path leading into the light. In the afterlife, the soul will taste it for a free. Never base, now be straight, now be intimacy. Laughing out the storms, he stands tall and free. River banks found his strength, now he helps others see.
My name is River Banks. I'm a substance use counselor, and I recover loud.
River, welcome.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
So you live in the Lewiston area?
Yeah, I live in Lewiston. Yeah, I live right in the middle of the city.
Did you grow up here?
No, I'm originally from Massachusetts. We moved to Maine when I was like 12 or 13.
What part of Mass?
I was originally from Brockton,
Okay.
and then we lived in Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, Taunton, East Taunton, and then we moved to Maine with my dad's business.
So that's a lot of moving in the first 12
Yeah,
years.
yeah. We were always moving around.
I actually grew up just outside of Worcester
Oh, cool.
until my freshman year in high school, and I moved to northern Maine. And I know for me it wasn't traumatic necessarily, but it had a big effect on me.
Sure.
That age going into a new area where nobody knew me, I didn't know anybody. Did that affect you in the same
A little
way?
bit, yeah. I had to spend the move. We moved twice in Maine, but the move from Massachusetts to Maine was the worst because I had like best friends and I had all these people that I was like connected with, and there was always that pull, like, when are we going to move back to Mass? When are we going to move back to Mass? And eventually I let go of that idea because I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it was really hard. We were in the Newport area, and it was just like this small little town, and like,
I went from being like in like this highly populated area to this small area with just the people. It's just, you know, I love Maine and I love Mainers, but it was just, it's a very different culture.
You are a substance use counselor.
Yeah, I went to school for my case manager, MHRTC, which is like, it stands for Mental Health Rehabilitation Technician Community, I think is what it is. And I got so I took the classes. I was in school for like a year, and then that qualified me to take my certified alcohol and drug counselor test. So I got my CADC, started working at Recovery Connections in Maine in Lewiston, where we're shooting now. And then I got my LADC, my fully licensed counselor.
What got you interested in becoming a counselor?
Really, what got me interested in being a counselor was I really wanted to help people like me, people like us. You know what I mean? I got, you know, I have an engineering degree from Maine Maritime Academy, so I was like, I did that whole thing for a while, and it was really soulless. I did not like that job. I went to school for it and worked hard for that degree, but it really wasn't for me. And becoming a counselor was something that like I had bounced around a little bit. I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it. I was really nervous about becoming a counselor. I'm on the autism spectrum, and you know, I was diagnosed with autism in age 41, and so that I had these like, in my head, I had these stereotypes about myself that made me really insecure about wanting to help people. I mean, I'm in the program. I got sober in AA, and I've sponsored people and stuff like that. That worked, but really, for me, I was nervous about becoming a counselor because I had that stereotype that like, oh, I miss social cues and I may not be able to tune in on how someone's feeling because I'm missing that and stuff. And really, it actually became the opposite. It was exactly the opposite. Those fears went away when I started to notice how I positively affected people.
Yeah.
Because I would tell people, I tell clients here, you know, I have autism. You know what I mean? Like I'm upfront with it because sometimes I have little behaviors and quirks and stuff like that. But really, in the end, I've been able to really connect with clients. And it ended up being a positive.
I just wanted to mention, and I have no qualms with sharing that you were a counselor of mine at one time. And you know, I feel that the year I think I was with you, I think I grew quite a bit in that year because you asked me the questions that really needed to be addressed for me. When previously, for me, counseling was, you know, going in and talking about things I had realized or learned about myself in the previous month and how great I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that you saw beyond how great I was doing and saw that there was still work to do. And I've always appreciated that about you. Yeah. And I think your experience contributed to that. Let's back up to the time when you started using substances. When was that, and what was the first substance you used?
So I think I was 16 years old. I drank my first beer. Alcoholism was a really big thing in my family. My father was an alcoholic who stopped drinking, who never got treated. So he was miserable. He never addressed his substance use disorder. My mother wasn't actively drinking. She drank up until she was put into hospice with cancer and died from alcoholism and chain smoking. And so I was surrounded by that energy all my life, some way or another, whether it was someone who was untreated or someone who was actively. So the first time I drank my first beer at age 16, and I told myself I'm never gonna drink because I saw what it did to my mom. But I ended up drinking my first beer at age 16, and it was wild because I was at my mother's apartment. She was working, and I used to go over there with my friends and just hang out. And this guy was like, "Hey man, you know, we should get some alcohol." I'm like, "I don't know about this thing." Like, you know, so he's like, "It'll be fine. It'll be fine." So I drank my first. It was a Budweiser, and I drank it, and I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was gross. It's like the most hideous thing I've ever drank. But really, when it got down into my stomach and my face got a little warm, once I started drinking it, the first thing I said to my friends, I was like, "I can't wait to do this all the time."
Wow.
It was literally like instantaneous addiction.
Wow. Wow.
As soon as I drank that beer, it literally just rearranged my brain. Like, oh, I have to do this as much as possible.
Yeah.
And from there, it really escalated. And what another thing that made it kind of worse, too, is when I was 18 years old, back in the 90s. I graduated high school in 1996.
Okay.
Back in the 90s, so autism really wasn't a thing like it is now. People had autism, but they were often misdiagnosed, and it really wasn't a lot of education in the medical community yet.
Yeah.
So they thought I had ADHD. So I was one of those kids that was prescribed massive doses of Ritalin. And that was another thing that, like, as soon as I took it, like, it was like, I was super addicted.
My son, he was diagnosed with ADHD as well as a child, and the way he described it when he first took meds, because we as parents, we were fighting the idea of putting him on meds for a long time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And once we finally he told us that it was like he'd been looking through a screen door his whole life, and suddenly that screen was gone. And just the fact that he described it that way, it scared me, as well as got me excited about the idea that he was going to be able to get through this and live a normal life.
There's also people who benefit from it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong,
Right.
there was a period of time, dude, my grades went from C's and D's to straight A's.
Yeah.
And I got into a prestigious university. The problem is I have substance use disorder.
Right.
So if I didn't have substance use disorder, there's a chance I could have kept taking that medication, and because it did benefit me for a while.
Yeah.
I was able to focus and sit and not wander off, and there is some elements of me that is, I do have attention span issues.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can't take addictive medication.
Yeah.
But
So-
there's people, I'm sorry, but there's people who really benefit. I have clients here
Yeah.
who take like Vyvanse, and they're like, oh man, you know, I struggled so much, and now I have this thing where I can sit still and pay attention.
Once we, get away from the substances that are killing us and controlling our lives, we might find that we actually need something.
Sure.
Because chemical imbalances and all that stuff. And, sometimes we still need that. We just have to do it under supervision,
Sure.
take it as prescribed. And I know in the beginning it's difficult. And a lot of people say that about MAT as well. Like, you're just getting put onto another medication.
Well,
But taking it as prescribed, I saw all the benefits.
Sure.
I saw none of the negative side.
Yeah.
Of course, there was physical dependence, but December 25th of 24 was my last dose. And, I'm doing great today without it. So, it's possible to get off those meds when you don't need them anymore. And, I don't see it as a negative aspect at all. And if you need something, get it through a doctor.
it's like I have to almost like, working with people here at the agency. It's like you have, like, sometimes you'll be I'll run an IOP group, right? And there'll be like two factions of people in that group sometimes. People that look at medication-assisted treatment as exactly what it is. You have a disease that requires a medical intervention, which is medication.
Yeah.
Then there's other people that will say, oh, you're not sober. And I have to, like, you're not sober if you use Suboxone. You're not sober. And I'm like, I really have to dispel that and, like, help people. Like, here's the diagnostic. There's a DSM manual. In here, opioid use disorder is a disease.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who take Suboxone and Methadone, right, that are doing very well today. But really it's that programming. People are told, that these things, and they believe them, and it's like sometimes it's a lot of work to get people to come around.
I see that, being on the social media, the apps, I see it all over the country. Some areas are worse than others. I think Maine has come a long way in dispelling that.
Sure.
And when people get upset and they argue that, and they fight that, it depends on your definition of sober.
Sure.
Some of the programs, they say you have to be 100% substance-free. So any psychoactive drugs, except for nicotine, caffeine, sugar.
Yep.
And if that's, they're going by the program's definition, you're not sober.
Right.
But why push the issue? I never say I'm sober. When I was on the medication, I was in recovery though. And to me, the word sober meant nothing. I might have been working towards an abstinence-based
Sure.
recovery program, But I was in recovery. I was still doing better. I was learning. I was growing. I was doing all the things. So to me, it didn't matter. And I really encourage people to get away from those words.
Yeah.
Because there's certain stigmas that are associated with every word we use, really.
Yeah.
You know, so my definition might not match theirs, and it's okay.
And that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fine.
Exactly. So you had your first beer at 16, and did it progress to any other substances?
So really, for me, I really stuck with stimulants and alcohol were the thing. But the stimulant addiction kind of ended up going away. It was about 10 years. I ended up getting incarcerated for my behaviors. Once I broke that cycle with the stimulants, I didn't really go back to them except once in a great while, but really it was the alcohol that really stuck with me.
Recently I was having a discussion with somebody about addictive personalities. If you're addicted to something, if you're an addict, no matter what you do, no matter what you take, you're going to get addicted to it. And that kind of goes against that idea. How do you feel on the topic of addictive personality? And
the way I look at it, and a lot of my thinking now, I've gotten used to being very clinical. So when it comes to like addictive personality, I think there are people that are quite genetically predisposed to addiction. There are people that anything, it's not just alcohol, it's not just drugs, it's, you know, it can be sex addiction, it can be food addiction. So I think there are people out there now, if you look at the broad spectrum of people involved in our community, there are definitely people that, like, the first time they start trying things, they are addicted. And I think it goes into, it's a DNA, it's a genetic level. And there's a lot of studies now, and there's a lot of stuff they're doing now to investigate that, and they're finding that, yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of root causes for that too, the genetic part of it, but there's also, like, you know, people that are traumatized, people that have really bad post-traumatic stress disorder, people that were socialized, and alcohol in their family. Like, you know, it's like, oh, when I was growing up, it was no big deal for mom and dad to go out in the backyard with a bunch of family members, and we all had tons and tons of alcohol, and we're getting, you know, intoxicated frequently. Yeah. So that's how I kind of feel about that. For me, it's always been like a genetic kind of. For some people, it's definitely been a genetic.
Yeah. I've been working in substance use prevention now for the last year. And, you know, in one of the programs I teach, we discuss the topic. And basically it says there's no actual proof of there being an addiction gene that people carry. Of course, you know, there is our history, genetic history, plus our you know, our decisions, our actions.
Sure.
And that's going to equal the outcome. So, and that was my point in the conversation, is that there's no real evidence of a addictive personality per se. But again, I agree with everything you just said too, that some people, no matter what they do it and they won't stop doing it.
Right. Once they start, they can't stop.
Yeah. And I know plenty of people who, you know, may have quit alcohol and drugs, and now they're gambling all the time.
Oh, sure.
Or chasing, you know, sex addiction.
Or there's people that use substances, and like you go to like an AA, go to a recovery meeting, and chain smoking, you know, 3 packs of cigarettes a day, drinking these huge thermoses full of coffee all day long. And I'm like, you really just replaced one thing with another. Because, you know, if there are some statistics out there that talk about people in the recovery community and people dealing with addiction don't necessarily die from their substance. They die from all the other unhealthy habits they adopt.
What does recovery mean to you?
For me, recovery means, in my recovery, for me personally, it means, for me, abstaining from the substances that almost killed me. Recovery is me living a very well-connected spiritual life with my higher power,
And recovery for me also includes being connected to a community that feels pretty similar to the way I do about it. And recovery also means helping other people on their way up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's really important when you're able to for me to get sober or abstain, be abstinent from the substances that almost killed me. I think that when you learn these lessons, the way to stay in there and be able to abstain and live a healthy life, you got to give away what you have.
Yeah.
That's what it really means to me.
Yeah, and I found the same thing. Service, helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really been most of my program since for the last several years. And at one point, I kind of felt like I'd reached a ceiling.
I've been there.
And then it's like, take a deep look at myself and decide, am I growing? Am I stagnant? And what I did notice at the time was not necessarily that I was stagnant and not growing. I was growing in other areas.
Right.
By going back to school and getting my degree, I felt that was growing. Of course it is,
Sure.
right? Recently I started film school at NYU online. So, that's also growth. But was I doing things to, grow my spiritual relationship and connecting with people? And I found that that's where I was lacking.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess that's what I was seeing as a ceiling, even though I was like, no, because I am doing this and I'm doing that. And I'm gaining experience and knowledge and passing it on. So I'm not really stagnant. But yeah, with my spiritual self, it was, that's where I had to grow.
It's we're talking about this. Just a couple of feet away, we have an IOP group room, and there's so many times because we get into the different areas of recovery. We talk about physical health, emotional health, mental health, talk about financial health. We'll talk about spiritual health. That is such a sensitive area for some people, right? Because one, a lot of people associate it with organized religion, which for some people, that is a huge part of their recovery.
Yeah.
Christianity, Islam, you know what I mean? People, and they thrive, right? But there's a lot of people that when you start bringing up spirituality, they immediately connect it with religion. And I was like, it can or cannot be the same thing for some people, right? But the concept of God, that's the thing that gets people the most hung up. I've seen people in group therapy, we start talking about spiritual health, and they literally are just like looking at the door ready to leave.
Yeah.
And really when you start to educate people about spirituality, it's like, it's your concept. It's what you think spirituality is. It's not mine.
Right. It's
not yours. It's yours. You're in control of this. You're steering this, right? It's whatever you come up with as a higher power. And when I start to educate people about like, it's not out of your control, because there are people that grew up like in religious families where like they were made to do something they didn't want to do. And what I have to do with spirituality, I said, you're not being made to do anything. You are choosing to do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's such a difference from being told that this is God, this is how you have to respect God. This is, if you have to fear God. All of these different, that can be scary for people.
Absolutely.
Especially if they've lived a life in addiction. They've done a lot of things that would go against what their idea of God was. So how can they just turn back to that?
Right.
So I do tell people that I am more spiritual than religious, but I religiously look to my spirituality for help. That's that. And the other aspect too, we mentioned it, was physical health. As I'm getting older, I'm seeing more and more the reasons that I need to take care of my physical health. And seeing where I may have beat myself up a little bit in years, because substance use can do that to us.
Oh, for me, brother, let me tell you, man, from alcohol, the impetus really for me getting sober, I had tried AA 2014, 2015. And unfortunately, the area I lived in further up north, there really wasn't a lot of recovery. it was like, and this is not, again, to blame someone else for my substance use disorder and not take responsibility. When I first tried AA, it was just a bunch of really miserable old men, and it was really like, for me, it was like, if I really wanted to deal with this, I'd go see my dad.
Right.
It was really, the situation was pretty difficult for me to want to be part of that community. So I moved from there, and I moved to Augusta, and I thought that was going to change things, and it didn't. I still drank and for another month, and then I ended up in an emergency room, which was the impetus. So like, I tried to get sober for a couple of years, didn't like the community, and I wound up in Maine General in Augusta, and I had like infections all through my lungs. I was coughing up blood. I went into this emergency room. I'll tell you the whole story. So I went into this emergency room. I was waking up. I was gasping for air. Right? It ended up being acid reflux coming up into my lungs, causing infections and stuff. And I went in.